3E solution: education, empowerment, and enforcement. That first E is really the one that all these task forces spend a lot of time focusing on: education and media literacy. Governments need to ensure appropriate penalties are in place to punish serious crimes that occur online or affect children, and that we need to make sure that law enforcement agencies have adequate resources to police crime and punish wrongdoers. Safe walled gardens. There's a huge developing field of sites that my kids use in my home. I have an 8- and a 5-year-old, and there's these wonderful patches of the internet that are developing that are high and tight walled gardens that are very safe for young kids. That's something that just didn't exist in a vibrant way 10 years ago. There are all sorts of other developing rating schemes, labeling systems, third-party outreach efforts. The really important takeaway from, I think, the parental control technology portion of this report is that we said these tools and technologies need to be baked in all of these systems, networks, devices from the start. You need safety by design, to borrow a term we hear a lot of in the privacy space of privacy by design. And so I think we're getting there.
Fast forward to the internet era, where technology advances tend to outpace the underlying legal and privacy regimes. Data retention, however, still plays a prominent role in solving crimes. The three main stakeholders in the data retention debate are law enforcement, the ISP, content and application industry, and privacy advocates. So you might think law enforcement would want all data retained for all time, but you'd be wrong. Similarly, you might think that the privacy advocates would not want any data retained ever for any reason. Again, you'd be wrong. In the end, data retention today is about balancing the legitimate needs of law enforcement with Americans' expectations for privacy. And the internet industry finds itself squarely in the middle of this debate. So our section of the Ostwig report reflects the three stakeholders' different perspectives. While we did not reach a consensus on what data should be retained or for how long, we did come up with several recommendations for Congress to consider. First, increase cooperation between law enforcement and industry groups, and we have some specific suggestions in that area. I refer you to the report. Second, recognize that consumers have privacy expectations, and vast amounts of stored data raise significant privacy concerns. Third, the data retention debate, if there is to be one, should take place at the federal level. If states are allowed to set their own data retention standards, this could create even more uncertainty for law enforcement. Not a good thing. Finally, Congress should assess the impact of the more focused and efficient data preservation procedures enacted in the Protect Our Children Act, which came after the Ostwig Enabling Act. They should consider the effect of that law before considering mandatory data retention rules. In conclusion, assessing the necessary balance between the retention needs of law enforcement, the privacy interests of consumers, and the requirements of the internet industry is a complex task. I believe our subcommittee has given Congress much to consider regarding data retention and its role in preventing and solving crimes against children facilitated by the internet.